Well, Game 7 of the NBA Finals brought devastation for the fan base of the Indiana Pacers when Tyrese Haliburton went down early in the game with that ugly Achilles injury. The Pacers said Tyrese will not play this upcoming season after getting surgery. That is a tough pill to swallow for Indiana fans, myself included. That was very tough to watch. For those of us from Indiana who grew up cheered on the Pacers, we welcome in CBS Sports NBA analyst John Gonzalez once again. John, the Pacers and myself have grieved the loss of the finals and their star all in one game. But as they move forward, what does this team look like without Tyrese? What's their fate? Who steps in Haliburton's absence? Please give me a little bit of hope and positivity here, John. I'm relying on you.
Yeah, I want to say I'm so sorry for your loss. I sent you some flowers and a get well soon card. It's tough stuff out there for Indiana Pacers fans. Yeah, without Tyrese Haliburton, I guess if there's two guys from the guard position that I think will have to step up. It's obviously T.J. McConnell and Benedict Mathurin. T.J. McConnell is their bench general and runs that second unit. He brings in a lot of energy. There was a case to be made, Trisha, and I'm sure you and all these Pacers fans know. There's a case to be made if you guys had won, if Indiana had won the finals, there's a case to be made that T.J. McConnell could have been finals MVP. That's how good he was. I'm not sure if they want to yank him out of that role, running that second unit, because it might sort of throw off the balance and the chemistry a little bit to put him in the starting lineup, but he's a candidate. And then Benedict Mathurin, he's just instant offense. He's an absolute bucket. He's primarily a scoring guard. He's obviously a very different player than Tyrese Haliburton, but they're going to need more from him whether or not he starts or not. And then from not the guard position, obviously, Pascal Siakam, they're going to need him to be the all-star spicy P that he's been previously. No Tyrese Haliburton, no Miles Turner, too, who I know we're going to talk about. So you're down two of your five starters after an incredible season where you make it to the Eastern Conference Finals for the second year in a row, and then you go to the finals for the first time in 25 years. So, yeah, all hands on deck. Everybody's going to have to step up. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you didn't make me feel any better. You mentioned T.J. McConnell. I remember tweeting in the middle of that Game 7, I said, T.J. McConnell, take us to the promised land, because it looked like he was going to go off had they won that game. You think about T.J. McConnell being the MVP of the NBA, like what? That's a wild, wild existence. But of course, it did not pan out that way. So one thing that a lot of Pacers fans are wondering at this point, is a playoff run lost without Tyrese Haliburton? I almost don't want to hear your answer.
No, I don't think so. I actually think, look, Rick Carlisle had said so many times that they're greater than just Tyrese Haliburton, that they're more than the sum of their parts. And I think that's absolutely right. I mean, they're a really deep team. Now, is it hard on a team to lose two of your five starters, Tyrese Haliburton and Miles Turner? Yeah, absolutely. It's going to make things more difficult, right? Naturally, that's true. But I still think that because this team is so deep and because they're built in a way that it's really a cast of characters and not centered on just one player, that sets them up pretty well to make a playoff run. Now, what kind of playoff run are we talking about? Are they going to make it back to the Eastern Conference Finals or the finals? I have my doubts about that. However, in the Eastern Conference, I know I want nice things for my friends in Indiana and for you, Trisha. But look, here, you want to do positive, let's do positive, right? In the Eastern Conference, you've got the Cavs and the Knicks, I think, are pretty clearly above everybody else. After that, there's another tier of these teams on the come that I like a lot. The Magic, who added Desmond Bane, the Pistons, who were a couple of balls bouncing a different way from unseating the Knicks, and then the Atlanta Hawks, who had just an absolutely fantastic offseason. After that, I think the Pacers are right there in that fighting for that last playoff proper spot with the Sixers, or maybe a play-in spot with the Bucks and the Celtics and the Raptors and, all the other effluvia in the Eastern Conference. So, yes, it's going to be tougher, but you guys can still do it.
Oh, thank you. I love that. Because you know what? Let me tell you something, though, real quick. When you looked at the odds for the Pacers at the end of last season, during the offseason, they were not good. And look at what they did. So you are right. It still is possible. All right. Our next question revolves around a guy you previously mentioned. That is Miles Turner. He had been the longest tenured Pacer on that team. When you thought of the Pacers for so long, you thought of Miles Turner. So now what is the impact of Miles Turner leaving Indiana and going to the Bucks?
Yeah, not great, right? I mean, he was there for 10 years, and for 10 years, it felt like every year we heard, oh, Miles Turner's about to get traded. Miles Turner's about to get traded. The Lakers were always a hot destination, right? And then they go to the finals, and he plays well through the postseason, and you think, okay, this is the year that we put all that to rest. Miles Turner isn't going anywhere. Of course they're going to pay him. Well, I actually think that had Tyrese Haliburton not gotten hurt, that they probably would have paid him. The ripple effects of Tyrese Haliburton getting hurt is Herb Simon, the owner of the Indiana Pacers, he's never paid the tax. He looks at this and goes, why am I paying the tax for a team that's not going to have Tyrese Haliburton for an entire year. Why am I going to go and pay Miles Turner when we probably aren't going to get back to the Eastern Conference Finals or the finals without those two guys? We'll just let them walk. Now, what are the ramifications of that? It's not great because center options here, you're looking at two guys who you've got some holdovers for Thomas Bryant, Tony Bradley. Jay Huff is a guy that I really like. But yeah, without Tyrese Haliburton and also Miles Turner, it's one of those situations where you look at it and go, man, that, it's going to be really difficult to replace. And they've got a lot of work to do now, just trying to cobble together in the aggregate all the production that Miles Turner had.
Yeah, you think about that ripple effect and you look at some franchises and there are certain moments that define them in terms of disappointment as they move through the years. And I look at that Haliburton injury as one of them. So, John, let me ask you this. What does that offseason position battle, I know you mentioned it briefly, but what does that position battle at center look like for the Pacers?
Yeah, I think there are probably like 4 possibilities here. There's 2 holdovers and 2, we'll call them newbies, although one of them isn't really. So last year he had Thomas Bryant and Tony Bradley. Both are cost controlled. Both saw time in the postseason. Rick Carlisle, as we know, likes to go deep into his bench. Both are limited, though. They're not really Turner avatars. Neither one of them can really shoot all that well. And also Thomas Bryant is a free agent, so he might be gone anyway. And the newbies are Jay Huff and James Wiseman. Now, Wiseman was on the team last year, but as you and other Pacers fans remember, he tore his Achilles in the opening game, which is not great. I think the answer here might actually be Jay Huff. He's pretty good. I think casual fans might not know him. Played 64 games for the Grizz last year. Not a great rebounder, but shot 40% from 3, and he protects the rim a little bit, which, does that sound like anybody we know? That's kind of what Miles Turner did, right? Not exactly a great rebounder, but a very good rim protector and a very good shooter from distance. So if I was a betting man, and I want to just caveat this here, I am not, because I'm terrible at it, but if I were, I'd go with Jay Huff as the replacement.
Hey, listen, I love it. In Jay Huff, we trust. I appreciate that. John Gonzalez, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for giving me some positivity about my Pacers. All right, let's take a look at those odds to win the Eastern Conference. The Cavs, they have the best odds to win the East. The Knicks are right there with them, then the Magic and the Hawks. But the Pacers, who we just addressed, not so great. Bucks, who just got Miles Turner, also not so great. But allow me to point out that at the end of last season, the Pacers were plus 2,500 to win the East. So that shows you how much these things can change and potentially be wrong.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap,
we're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.